It's time for Soul Patch Reviews.
So, Jack, it's your turn. What have you been watching these days? You said you had something kind of cool, not? Yeah.
Yeah, I watched again. I watch most of my dramas on Netflix. So I
Nice.
watched a. It's a. I don't know how to describe it exactly. I would call it like a military drama, and it
Okay.
has. It's called
Like war
DP.
based,
Well,
like soldiers.
it's based on Korean military the conscription, right? So like
Mm,
in Korea, every able-bodied man must serve 18 months in the military. And
right.
so the creator of the show, and I have his name, I'm just gonna share his name with everybody here quickly, was Kim Bo-tong. That was he's the creator of the show. And some of the and basically what it does is it talks about, it basically tells the story of life in the Korean military, just going
Okay.
through training and what they do, everyday operations. But it's a
Huh.
very dark drama. There is humor in it, but the overarching story is a story of basically bullying and the
Ah.
stronger soldiers basically abusing underlings, and in horrific ways, sexual violence, physical violence. I mean, lots of different ways that they torture these young men, and why I think it does not paint a good picture of the military,
Oh.
and what these
When
men
when did
have to
this
go
come
through.
out?
This came out about 6 months to a year ago, I
Oh,
believe,
okay.
on
Pretty recent
Netflix.
then.
So it's quite recent, yeah. And they're going to do a second season. Now,
Hmm.
the story follows this young man who joins the military. He's he's a he comes from he doesn't come from a wealthy family, so he's kind of but he's not like totally poor, but he works in a chicken shop at the beginning, and
Right.
he's a young guy, but he's very clever. And he joins the military. He goes through that whole process where you have to everybody's like saying goodbye, and girlfriends are crying and boyfriends are crying, and
Okay.
it's,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting insight into what it's like to actually have to walk away from your life for 18 months to serve your
Mhm.
time in the military as a Korean man. So I mean, it's a very honest and very gritty portrayal of that. So if you're ever interested in that, this is a really good show to watch. But what happens in the story is that this young man actually becomes what they call a DP, and DP stands for deserter pursuit. And so
Huh.
so essentially they're military police, they're MPs, right?
Okay.
And so but they're undercover MPs, so they get to wear casual clothes, like street clothes, and then they go out in a team, and they actually try to find deserters, people who went AWOL, soldiers that went AWOL, because
Sounds
a
like the
lot.
slave hunters that we
It
talked about.
is right. It's a lot like that, and the relationship between these two characters is really funny. One is kind of a goofy guy. The other one is a more serious guy. The main character is that comes from the poorer family. He's much more serious. But his I don't know how to say, like officer or whatever, the person in
Hmm.
charge of him sees something in him that he's like, wow, this kid is special. He's very clever. He may be working class. He may not be as refined as some of the more highly educated
Okay.
soldiers, but he's got that special quality. And so he
Hmm.
actually assigns him as one of these military police that are sent out to catch deserters. And
Hmm.
essentially, it's almost like a buddy. It's almost like a cop movie where they're partners and teams, and they go out and they have to find these deserters and bring them back, arrest them, and bring them back to the barracks so that they can face punishment. And yeah,
So I guess then,
really
like the story,
interesting.
that's how it would go on to season two as well. Is like there's like each episode is maybe finding a new deserter,
Right.
kind of.
So, and then there is also a major plot that kind of runs
Sure.
through the whole story that has to do with abuse, and I don't want to spoil it because it's a really the payoff is really quite profound at the end of the series. But you're right. In
Cool.
between, they go on these little missions where they go to Busan or they go to another city.
Mm,
And one of the reasons why this is a coveted job is because you get to wear street clothes, you get to go out, you might have to go out drinking, you get to stay in a
oh no.
hotel. Yeah, I mean it's like a vacation, right? You get a little pocket
Right.
money that they give you so that you can, and so it's kind of like in a way to escape the
Right.
mundane everyday military life is by becoming I could never tell in there if they call them DPs or if they're actually military police and DP is the term for deserter pursuit is what they're doing. I couldn't quite put that together, but I don't think it doesn't matter. It's just that they're, they go and they catch AWOL soldiers, and it's really cool. There's a couple of really heartbreaking. There's a couple of very disturbing scenes in there, which I
Yeah.
was surprised.
I mean, I
Yeah,
guess if you're
and
talking about all that abuse and stuff, that kind
yeah,
of
like
makes sense.
sexual abuse in
Mm,
between like higher ranking soldiers and lower ranking, and what's the line? Like you're
hmm.
supposed you can't say no to a direct order, but what if that order is immoral,
Right.
and so it kind of begs that question, like, well, what level of abuse are you willing to tolerate? And it also deals with suicide
Okay.
within the, which is a huge problem. So my understanding is that, do you remember, I think we're similar in age. I remember watching Saving Private Ryan, and it had such a profound, because the that opening image of the soldiers storming the beach in Normandy, that like World War II soldiers, that were still alive in the early 2000s or late 90s would show up to the movie theater wearing their uniforms, because
Oh
they
yeah.
watching it gave them such a visceral reaction. And I heard, my understanding is, reading a little bit about after DP came out, was it almost was a trigger for
Oh yeah.
men in Korea watching that, kind of triggering bad feelings that they had from their military experience, and
Mm,
so and the abuse that they had to withstand during their time in the military. So that it's a very, very interesting insight into that, and there's also a lot of bureaucracy and incompetency and all that sort of thing.
right.
People that rise up to a certain level, but they're quite aloof to what's going on, and then they only get involved when a tragedy happens. And it's a really fascinating show, and I didn't really give anything away, but I think as far as the acting goes, very well acted. The action scenes are really good. It's shot really
How's the
well. Yeah.
how's the like relationship between the two main characters, like the partners going out?
Yeah, the part I really like their relationship. There in the very beginning, he has a different partner, and then something happens, and they get in trouble. But he gets a second chance, and that's when he gets the new partner, and they actually form
Okay.
a much better relationship. And so their bond is I don't want to say they're close. I want to say it's, in the military, it's like you're forced together. And so
Right.
because you're forced into the situation, you have to make the best of it. So whether they would be
Okay.
friends outside of the military, it's hard to say. But since
Mm,
they're forced to get there, since they're together in this kind of difficult situation, they do support each other. And you can see that they have kind of become friends, and it's a really cool friendship. And
okay.
there's no romance, there's no, none of that stuff. It's just a very gritty picture of life in the military, and I'm sure a lot of it is probably exaggerated, a little bit hyperbolic. But
Yeah,
I
that's what I
do,
wonder.
yeah.
Like how true it is. I mean,
Well,
like so many Korean shows, it seems like it deals with a lot of social issues. It's like military social issues, but still, like that's a big theme in a lot of Korean shows coming out these days.
The creator that made the show said that he took some of these subplots were straight from his experience as
Okay.
an MP that chased deserters. So
Oh, okay. So this
so
was
so it's
somewhat
autobiographical in a
autobiographical. Yeah.
sense, but I wonder if, like when you're making a drama for Netflix, you crank it up to 11,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
how extreme it was, I'm sure it doesn't matter, because abuse is abuse. And so if
Mm.
they did crank it up a little bit for dramatic effect, it didn't seem over the top. It seemed plausible and disturbing. So but was it a good drama? Absolutely. I would give it a solid A. Yeah,
Okay.
solid A.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Well,
Not an
we're
A
looking for
minus.
something to
Yeah,
check later. We do need a new drama somewhat soon.
yeah. This
It
is
sounds a bit serious. I'm not sure. I think we want something a little bit more lighthearted, but we'll save that one for another time.
yeah, but there are moments of humor in it.
Oh, that's good.
But you're right. But overall, it's quite dramatic and kind of disturbing and very interesting. So
Nice.
yeah, I highly enjoyed it. I highly
All
enjoyed it.
right.
So there you
DP
go.
on
DP.
Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix. All right. Thanks. We'll see you next
Cool.
time.